Today, our rescuers dealt with the aftermath of the Russian strike on the Poltava region, on Kremenchuk. It was a combined attack, deliberately and treacherously planned to target our civilian infrastructure, specifically our energy facilities. The Russians used different missile types in this strike: cruise, ballistic, and air-launched ballistic missiles. They also used drones, Iranian Shahed drones, to complicate the work of our air defense systems. A significant number of missiles and drones were intercepted. No people were injured. However, unfortunately, energy infrastructure was damaged. This is Russia's spit in the face of everything the international community is trying to do to stop this war. It happened right after Putin's conversation with Trump, after the Americans asked us not to strike Russian energy facilities. At the same time as Putin tries to portray himself as a mediator for the Middle East and attempts to somehow assist his accomplices in Tehran. The level of cynicism is staggering. Every night Russian strikes. Every day we lose the lives of our people all across Ukraine, in the Kherson, Kharkiv, Donetsk, Sumy regions, because of Russian shelling, because of this war that could have ended long ago if the world had reacted to Russia in a principled way, instead of falling for its manipulation and lies.
Russian dictator Vladimir Putin congratulated Trump on his birthday. Russia is continuing to tap Trump along. Meanwhile, President Zelensky will meet with Trump on the G7 summit. So what did Trump discuss with Putin in another phone call, and what is the main objective of President Zelensky meeting with Trump in Canada? Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump had another phone conversation on Saturday and discussed the escalation between Iran and Israel and Ukraine. During the 50-minute conversation, Putin and Trump talked about latest escalation in the Middle East. Kremlin says that Russia's approach to the war in Ukraine and all ultimatums to the Ukrainians remain unchanged. Putin also told US President about the implementation of agreements of so-called Istanbul negotiations. Quote, "The Russian side expressed its readiness to continue negotiations with the Ukrainians as agreed after June 22nd. Also, the Kremlin leader congratulated Trump on his birthday, and both leaders expressed satisfaction with the personal relationship that allows for business-like communication, seeking solutions to pressing issues and other international agenda." US President Trump also described a phone call as a good one. Quote, "President Putin called this morning to congratulate me very nicely on my birthday, but more importantly to talk about Iran, a country that he knows very well. We talk about Russia, Ukraine for much less time, but that will be next week. He, like me, believes that the war in Israel and Iran must end, to which I explained that his war must also end." Meanwhile, President Trump and other leaders of G7 are gathering in Canada for latest G7 summit. Axios reports the main details of this meeting. The summit follows the outbreak of the Israel-Iran war and, of course, amid growing divisions between US and European allies, as well as Trump's controversial tariffs, particularly those imposed on Canada. G7 summit is scheduled to take place from Sunday to Tuesday in Alberta, western province of Canada. Summit will be held in the resort town of Kanasakis, which previously hosted G7 summit in 2002. G7 leaders consist of the leader of US, Canada, France, Italy, Japan, and Great Britain. Also Germany. Representatives from the European Union also will attend this summit, as well as head of the host state. White House official confirms that during the summit, Trump will meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, also with Prime Minister Carney and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. The meeting will mark the first in-person foremost discussion between Trump and Zelensky since Pope Francis' funeral in April. First-time attendees at this summit will include German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. Tensions between Canada and US have been high as Trump has repeatedly threatened Canada's sovereignty, has threatened to annex Canada's territory, and also expressed his opinions that Canada should be another American 51st state. During a White House meeting, Prime Minister Carney also made it clear to Trump that Canada has no intention of becoming the 51st state of the United States. As we know, during the first term in Canada, by tearing up previously agreed statement and publicly criticizing then Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, labeling him as very dishonest and weak on social media after leaving the summit. Also, President Volodymyr Zelensky's office has confirmed plans for a significant meeting with US President Donald Trump at the upcoming G7 summit in Canada. This meeting will mark the third in-person encounter between two leaders during Trump's second term in the office. Their most recent meeting occurred in April 26 at St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican, where they spoke privately on the Pope's funeral. Both sides described that meeting as productive and constructive, though specific details were not disclosed. Earlier in February, Zelensky met with Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance in White House, where they, during which a tense exchange in the Oval Office, Trump had criticized Ukraine for a lack of gratitude for U.S. support. Zelensky emphasized that his priority in the upcoming meeting is to discuss sanctions against Russia, pistols, arms purchases, and U.S.-Ukraine economic cooperation. The U.S. communicates also with the EU on sanctions at the level of senators and congressmen, but I want to address this issue personally with Donald Trump, President Zelensky said. Quote, "There are steps forward we can take, but we need political will of the U.S. president." He also mentions that Ukraine has long prepared a strong package of weapons to purchase from Washington, D.C., stating that only at presidential level we can finalize this decision ahead of G7 summit. Meanwhile, President Trump recently vetoed an Israeli plan to assassinate Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, according to U.S. officials who spoke with Reuters on Sunday. Quote, "Have the Iranians killed an American yet? No. Until they do, we are not even considering going after political leadership," said one source, a senior U.S. administration official. The officials indicated that Israelis had reported an opportunity to eliminate the Iranian leader, but Trump refused and rejected this plan. It is unclear whether Trump personally communicated this message. However, he has been in contact with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. When asked about the Reuters report during an interview on Sunday with Fox News, special report, Netanyahu responded, quote, "There are so many false reports about conversations that never happened, and I'm not going to get into that." He added, "I can assure you that we do what we need to do, and I believe that the US understands what is best for its interests." Trump has been hopeful about resuming negotiations with Iran regarding Tehran nuclear program. Talks that were scheduled for Sunday in Oman were cancelled due to recent strikes. On Friday, Trump told Reuters that we knew everything about the Israeli strikes. Also, according to Axios, over the past 2 days, Israel has been asking Trump's administration to join strikes on Iran to dismantle and destroy Iranian nuclear program. Israel wants the US to join strikes on Iran because, unlike Israel, it has bunker-boosting bombs and large bombers needed to destroy Iranian uranium enrichment facility at Fordo. Axios reported Israeli officials have been pushing the US to destroy Iranian nuclear program and also join them in this military operation. An Axios source at the White House confirms that Israel had indeed offered the US the opportunity to join the strikes on Fordo. Quote, "But we have the opportunity to achieve a successful peaceful resolution to this conflict if Iran is ready for it. The fastest path to peace for Iran is to abandon its nuclear program," he added. Meanwhile, former Trump's national security advisor John Bolton said that there was no possibility for reaching a nuclear deal among the US, Iran, and Israel following Israel's attack on Iran's nuclear capabilities. Quote, "There was never a chance, let me say that again, never a chance that Iran would agree to any deals that we would find acceptable. It wasn't that we didn't give diplomacy a chance. Diplomacy had no chance, given Iran's objectives. Israel's attack occurred without US support and also followed Trump's efforts to secure a deal. Following the attack, Iran canceled planned negotiations and is also canceling further negotiations. The agreement reached in 2015 provided sanction relief for Iran in exchange for dismantling parts of Iranian programs. The main signatories included permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom and the US. Although the deal permitted Iran to maintain a civilian nuclear program, critics argued that it did not effectively limit Iran's uranium enrichment capabilities. Trump withdrew the US from the deal in 2018, and Israel has also opposed the deal, considering it too lenient. Trump has urged Iran to negotiate regarding its nuclear program before the tensions arise. At the same time, French President Emmanuel Macron, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and Greenland's leader Jens Frederik Nielsen expressed strong support for Greenland's sovereignty and democratic values during a joint news conference in Nuuk on Sunday. They emphasized their unity and the need for deeper cooperation amid increasing geopolitical interests in the Arctic. Macron convened a clear message of solidarity, said that Greenland is not to be sold, not to be taken. He emphasized that this signifies respect for Greenland's sovereignty and choices regarding security, economic and social development and sustainable management of national resources. Additionally, Macron called for increased joint military exercises with Nordic Baltic countries, including Canada and the United States, to strengthen security in Greenland and throughout the Arctic region.
A message of respect for your sovereignty and respect for your choices. Choice of security, economic and social development, sustainable monitoring of your natural resources. A message of support for your territorial integrity, your borders. In a few words, everybody think in France, in the European Union, that Greenland is not to be sold, not to be taken. I always hate elaborating some crazy scenario because the world is sufficiently crazy for all of us. And dealing with the day-to-day life is sufficient for my imagination. But what we should do, very concretely, is to increase the common exercises we have with other Nordic and Baltic states, by the way, with Canada, with even with the US, but common and cooperative exercises to work together to improve the security of this region, Greenland, but as well the security and the safety of the Arctic region.
To be in Greenland, this beautiful country in the Arctic, defined by its proud and brave people.
The situation in Greenland is clearly a wake-up call for all the Europeans. And let me tell you very directly that you are not alone. And when a strategic message is sent to you, I want just for you to know that it's clearly perceived by the Europeans as targeting a European land. And this flag you have here is our common flag. And we know our common values. And we know our long-standing choices. And this is why it's very important for French people and all the European people to convey very clearly this message of solidarity.
That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and glory to Ukraine.